Life cycle of a moss plant. In life cycle of a moss plant, just as we said earlier, that moss plant is a flowerless plant. So it's a spore producing plant. So it uses its spores to bring out new individuals. So during its life cycle, the spores is being produced from the sporangia. The sporangia, or we said in singular form, we say sporangium. So alternation of generation occurs here. What is alternation of generation? A generation that alternates, or life cycle that alternates from sexual stage to asexual stage. If you look at here, you see that the sporophyte is the asexual stage of this life cycle. Here we see here as the sexual stage, which is the gametophyte. So the sporophyte brings out the spores. It develops through its sporangia. It will bring out the spores. The spores will disperse. After the spores is being dispersed, it will develop into a young gametophyte. The spores will develop into a young gametophyte stage. Here, the gametophyte stage is the dominant phase of this life cycle, or we said that is the familiar phase, the dominant or familiar phase of this life cycle. So there is being surrounded by some leaf stalk, leaf-like structures. So the sporophyte will just develop into this, having a little seta, we say stalk, supporting it. It will develop into a young gametophyte. This gametophyte will be responsible for production of two gametes, which is the male and female gamete. The male gamete is called antheridia. In singular form, we say antheridium, while the female gamete is called archegonia or archegonium. So these two will fuse together. They will produce their gamete. From the archegonia, and this one from the antheridia, they will produce their male and female gametes, which will come together to fuse to form a zygote. After a series of mitosis, it will develop. Remember, mitosis, developmental stage, division, addition stage of division. It will develop to form a new sporophyte, which will keep on rotating the life cycle. That's how the life cycle occurs. Here you see this N. This N stands for haploid, where this stands for diploid. So here we have the gametophyte stage as the dominant phase of this life cycle. Note that very well. Now, in the life cycle of a fern plant, we have a little alternation too from the former one. In this life cycle, we still have alternation of generation. It occurs in fern plant, but here the dominant phase is the sporophyte. The dominant phase is the sporophyte. Here we have this. We have the mature sporophyte here. Is the sporophyte. The sporophyte from the sporangium, it will produce the spores. The spores will come out from the sporangium. After the spores, for the spores to be dispersed, that means that they must have arrived as a result of meiosis. They will come and be dispersed. The spores will now, in the presence of moisture, the spores will develop into a young gametophyte. Remember, the spores we are talking about here is a haploid. It's a haploid organism. The sporophyte is diploid. So the spores here, which is a single spore that is coming to develop as a new organism, is a diploid. It will develop into a young gametophyte. The gametophyte will now be responsible for production of the same gamete. This one will produce a haploid gamete. This one will also produce a haploid gamete. So the antheridia and the archegonia will produce their gamete, both the sperm and the egg. These two gametes will come together to fuse through the process called fertilization, bringing out a zygote, which is diploid. The zygote will undergo mitosis. After a series of mitosis, it will come back again as a new sporophyte. Through that same process, the life cycle keep on going around. In this life cycle, you also observe alternation of generation. But here, the familiar phase is the sporophyte. If you see a moss plant, you always see something like this. A fern plant, sorry. You always see something like this. This a fern plant is the familiar phase that we normally see. But in that of the moss plant, the familiar phase is the gametophyte, not the sporophyte. Although that both of them don't undergo alternation of generation, but their dominant phase differs. Dominant phase of a moss plant is the gametophyte, while dominant phase of a fern plant is the sporophyte. Having known the characteristics of the fern plant, which is the pteridophyte, bryophyte, psalophyte, let's look at the spermatophyte. I said earlier that spermatophytes are grouped into two. They are grouped into two. The seed producing plants, they are grouped into two: flowering plants and the conifers, which are the angiosperms and the gymnosperms. Now, what are the characteristics of the gymnosperms? They are always evergreen. Look at them here. They are always evergreen plants. And apart from being evergreen, they reproduce from seeds. That's a certain characteristics about them. So they bear naked seed. Remember, gymno, naked, angio, closed. So they bear naked seed, and they have a needle-like leaves. If you have seen a conifer or a pine tree, or you have seen a cedars, you see that their leaves is always in a needle-like form. But what about the angiosperms? The angiosperms, their seed always grow inside an ovary, which means they have a closed seed. Difference between this and this. So the angiosperm, they have a closed seed, and apart from having a closed seed, they are grouped into two: the monocotyledons and the dicotyledons. Those that have one seed leaf and those that have two seed leaf. Mono, one; di, two. So these plants that we call the dicot, you can see some of the examples of, you can see mango trees, there are orchids, palms, and grasses. They are there. So if you look at this now, you see that these ones, they are completely vascular plants. They are completely vascular plants. This one, you see some of them undergo secondary growth. These are some of the characteristics of this plant. The effects of various agricultural activities on the ecological system. We have the first one, bush burning. What are the effects of bush burning? Bush burning has adverse effect, and also it has a positive effect too. One of the adverse effects that we'll be listing now is that it removes plant cover. It removes the plant cover over the soil. So thereby it exposes the soil to erosion. When you remove those plants, it will expose the soil to erosion. It will expose the soil to high or direct sunlight too. Another one is that useful organisms during bush burning, they are being killed. So prolonged exposure of soil surface will also lead to desertification. These are some of the adverse effects. But when we look at the positive effect, one thing is that the ashes during bush burning adds nutrient to the soil. And apart from this, useful organisms such as putrefying bacteria, nitrifying bacteria, and the nitrogen fixing bacteria and earthworm, all of them, if they decay, they add also nutrient to the soil, thereby increasing the soil fertility. So it exposes the soil to increase in fertility level. This is the advantages of bush burning, but the disadvantages is too numerous to compare to the advantages. With the second one, here we have tillage. What is the effects of tillage? We see that if you break up the soil surface and it loses the soil for roots of young plant. If you break up the soil surface, it loses the soil for roots of young plants. And apart from that also, it mixes humus into the soil. When you till, it mixes humus into the soil. It also increases soil erosion. That's an adverse effect. It also removes plant cover over the soil, thus increasing soil degradation. It brings about soil degradation. But another positive effect about tillage is that it helps to prepare a seed bed. It helps to prepare a seed bed. It kills weeds also. And it incorporates nutrients and manage crop residues. This is a positive effect of tillaging. Another one is fertilizer. Fertilizer. For the application of fertilizer. When we apply fertilizer, it supplies nutrients to the soil. And also it stimulates plant growth. It may as well increase the soil fertility. That's the overall usage. But if we talk about the adverse effect of fertilizer, it kills some nutrients, soil organisms that comes in contact with them. And a prolonged usage of fertilizer will probably lead to poor soil structure. So if even to the ecological system, if fertilizers are washed into the water bodies, it brings about water pollution. It's an adverse effect of fertilizer. Next one is application of herbicide and pesticide. What are the effects? Pesticide, they pollute the atmosphere. These chemicals, they pollute the atmosphere because of they are always erosive. So an insecticide may kill useful insects like pollinating insects, butterflies, bees that pollinate flowers. So insecticide will kill them. Herbicide also may also kill crops if they are not selective. If you are not careful on usage, you might kill important crops in a plant. So our plants also absorb pesticide from soil and become contaminated. So these are adverse effects of this. But even though that we obtain some benefit from them, they also have adverse effect that they contribute to the ecosystem. So all these things are for us to identify and have reasons, compare them and know, even if we have to prepare this or indulge in the use of these things, are there advantages enough for us to indulge in these practices? If their demerit is more than their merit, it's advisable that we should come out from them in order for us to have a good ecological system. See you next week as we continue our lesson from here.